Hello, I'm Chuck Martin, and welcome to the Voices of the Internet of Things. With me today is May Wang, co-founder and chief technology officer of ZingBox, a company focused on security around the Internet of Things. May has been head of Asia-Pac research for Cisco, a venture partner at SAIF Partners, and angel investor at Stanford Angels. At ZingBox, May is focused on securing the Internet of Things, along with technology and development and deployment. Welcome here, May.
Thank you, Chuck.
So I love that you deal with IoT security. Just to start, before we go any deeper, can you give us a sort of a benchmark of where security stands today in the market?
Well, I think thanks for all the great work on connectivity during the past several years. We start seeing great adoption of IoT, all these connected devices. More and more devices are being connected online. But I would say IoT security is still at its very infant stage, because we just started connecting these devices together, and we started to see more and more security issues coming out of these connected devices. I think it's great, especially during the past year or two, thanks for all the hacking incidents in some sense, that more and more people are paying more attention to the security of these connected devices. But I would say overall, we're still at the very, very beginning stage, and we still see lots of vulnerabilities introduced by these connected devices.
So you co-founded this company, and it was like, 3 or 4 years ago, right?
That's right. We started the end of 2014, more than 3 years ago, yes.
But that was before IoT was big.
Exactly. Actually, when we started this company, we decided to, because my co-founders and I all came from networking, security, data analytics field. And we started seeing the increasing adoption of these IoT devices. And we could foresee that eventually the security is going to be a huge issue for these IoT devices. But actually, more than 3 years ago, when we started the company, there wasn't any analyst data on this sector. It wasn't even a sector. There wasn't any total addressable market. And actually, we got lots of questions about, is this really going to be an issue? Do we really need new IoT security solutions? Can we just use existing IT security solutions? So we got lots of questions on IoT security. But fortunately, we got great supporters, including our angel investors and our advisors. And we spent the past almost 4 years analyzing these IoT devices, learning about their special characteristics and unique challenges they bring to IoT security, and came up with a new solution to address these new challenges. And we're very glad to see, especially during the past year or two, this area, IoT security, the security about these connected devices, are getting more tractions and getting more attention from people across all industries.
So what's different about IoT versus traditional security?
Very good question. We see lots of different characteristics about these IoT devices. First of all, most of the IoT devices are purposely built with fixed functionalities. For example, X-ray machine, it only supposed to do for like 3 things: take images, archive images, upload images. Most of these devices are not full functional computational devices like our traditional IT devices. So most of these devices have very limited computational power, storage capability, energy, etc. So lots of traditional IT security solutions are not going to be effective on these devices. And most of these devices are on 24/7, and they're talking to not only human beings, but also talking to other devices.
So why didn't these device manufacturers think of that?
There are several reasons. For example, for the device manufacturing, for example, we work a lot with healthcare. Lots of medical device vendors, their expertise is more in medical field, how to build a world-class X-ray machine to take great images. Not necessarily networking and security is their strength. So, and also most vendors are being pressured by time to market and the cost of the product and short of expertise, etc. And also, as we mentioned, lots of these devices are newly connected to the network. So most people are not really that familiar with the potential security risk these devices can bring, because because of the connectivity, it certainly brings lots of convenience and efficiency, but at the same time, it dramatically increases the risk surface.
So who finds that out in a company?
Who find out what?
Who say in healthcare, for example, who in the chain of command says, oh, we have a security issue here because these things are getting connected?
That's another great question. We, for the past several years, we've been working extensively with large healthcare systems in the US, and we found not only it's a challenge technology-wise because people are looking for tools, looking for services, looking for software to help them protect these medical devices, but also at the same time, it is very challenging organizational-wise. In a typical hospital, they have an IT department who's in charge of traditional IT devices. At the same time, they have a team called Biomed team who's in charge of all the medical devices. Because remember, years ago, most of the medical devices were not even connected online. So each team have its own responsibilities. And then there's facility team who's in charge of the overall physical security, the building security, etc. Now the question is exactly as you asked, who's really responsible for the overall hospital security? Now all these fields, all these different teams need to work together because now medical devices are connected online. And there are lots of devices used for building security, like surveillance cameras and etc. We see in some pioneering hospitals, they start to merge all these different groups, or at least put these groups to work together to have one person, either as chief medical officer or chief information officer, to be in charge of the overall security of the hospital. And that's actually also the suggestion of Gartner moving forward for hospitals to have a central leader to be in charge of the overall security.
So do you see down the road there being a chief security officer at every major organization?
I think it can, this responsibility can have different titles, whether you call that chief security officer, chief information officer, chief medical officer. But I think as far as there's an organizational structure that allow all these different teams to be able to work together, I think that would be a very efficient and effective organization.
And while we're on healthcare, do hospitals recognize this in advance? Or is it after they put in the technology, or is it after they have a crisis in security?
The good news is we start to see the hospitals are showing more and more urgency, and they see this as an issue, either existing issue or upcoming issue, whether it is because of their own hospital being impacted by the recent, whether WannaCry or NotPetya ransomware, or it is because they heard about it in the news, or they know their sister or brother organizations are being impacted. For whatever reason, we start to see hospitals are paying more attention to these medical device security. Before, when we talk about healthcare security, people were mainly concerned about information leakage, about patient privacy being affected. But nowadays, we start seeing a new trend that not only the information is our key concern, but actually the operation. Because hackers, because of these low-hanging fruits, these connected medical devices, their security vulnerabilities, hackers can easily hack through these medical devices. And not only they can use these devices as a stepping stone to get your critical patient's record, but they actually can impact the operation. For example, from our research lab, we demonstrated that we can hack through a leading IV pump, manufactured by a leading vendor, and we can randomly change the dosage of medication that goes into a patient, and that alone can kill a patient immediately. So, right. So now we're not talking about privacy and information leakage. We're talking about operation interruption, we're talking about patient safety, we're talking about quality of service to patients. And that in healthcare is life or death.
So do hackers actually want to do something like that?
Right now we see most hacking incidents are either ransomware based. They basically, okay, I take down your network, you cannot operate until you pay me financially, or some of them which are believed to be state backed hacking incidents just to interrupt your operation. We haven't seen lots of hacking incidents specifically targeted at, say, for example, I know this is X-ray machine. I just really want to hack through this X-ray machine, and I want to increase the X-ray radiation dosage. I really want to kill this specific patient. We haven't seen much of that yet. But actually, given the vulnerability, the amount of vulnerability we're seeing in healthcare in hospitals, we won't be very surprised to see there are more hacking incidents coming up with even bigger impact.
What about connected IoT devices at home?
We certainly also see lots of vulnerabilities there. For example, as more and more IoT devices are being adopted, whether that's Nest thermostat or surveillance cameras or a digital doorbell, and lots of them are actually, because they're fairly new devices, and for the factors we talked about before, lack of expertise, pressure, time to market, and the cost, etc. So lots of these devices, even though I think the vendors know the importance about security theoretically, but lots of these devices came to the market without sufficient security mechanism in place. And I think we all heard about baby monitoring being hacked and surveillance cameras sending videos to international sites and etc. So I think there are lots of vulnerabilities there as well.
So where's the responsibility there? Is it the consumer or the manufacturer of the device?
I think, first of all, I think it takes a collaborative effort to really secure every single device on the network. And of course, we think device vendors certainly have responsibilities, but there are actually lots of challenges to secure these devices, whether it's medical devices or IoT devices we use at home. For example, lots of these devices have very limited resources themselves. So lots of traditional way of protecting end device is not going to be effective. For example, it's very hard for you to download an antivirus software to your digital door lock. And lots of these devices have very limited memory, storage size, and computational power. And some of them don't even have an operating system. And so the capability of these end devices to protect themselves has decreased dramatically compared to traditional IT devices. But at the same time, because they're in real world operation, the security stake is actually a lot higher. Now the question is, how do we protect these devices without being able to download antivirus software, or even a software agent onto these end devices? And some of these devices don't even have enough capability to do encryption, decryption. And their traditional way of IT security to protect these devices, for example, to scan the pores and to block the pores. And some of them might not work on especially those medical devices, because when you scan a port, when you block a port, you can easily impact the operation. And that's the last thing we want to do in real hospital setting.
For home devices, what is the consumer to do? Because presumably someone could hack a home device, which then is used as a conduit to some of these medical devices you're talking about.
Right. I think it's right now there are still lots of unknowns, and it's hard to protect what you don't know. So we think the first step, all consumers need to know about what kind of device you're getting and what kind of what this device is doing, because we actually see in our lab we have all kinds of IoT devices. We actually see some of the IoT devices are doing lots of things more than what this device is supposed to do. For example, if there's a temperature controller, it's only supposed to control the temperature, but we actually see some of the IoT devices, instead of just doing that one or two tasks it's supposed to do, it actually scanning the whole network, pinging all other devices and collecting all the information, collecting all the data and sending it back to a server. And I think on one side, I think device vendors need to disclose what this device is really doing, what kind of security measurements we put in place, and what kind of information we're collecting from consumers or from business. And on the other side, I think consumers have the right to get to know and to request this kind of information from vendors.
Where do you see this going? Because most consumers aren't that sophisticated. They may get a smart light bulb because they think it's a cool idea to be able to control their light from their phone without all this security knowledge that you're talking about. How does that evolve over time?
It is a very challenging area. I can see maybe from two areas that we can push this forward. One is from the standardization and policy perspective. We need to mandate the device vendors to provide more information about how secure this device is and what information it's collecting, what kind of impact it has to consumers' privacy and security. That is one side. And on the other side, as I mentioned, it's very hard to expect every single device vendor to become an IT expert, to become a security expert, needless to mention consumers. So we think moving forward, we need to have more help, whether from security vendors, whether from all different kind of tools and software. That's where we see actually artificial intelligence come into very handy, so that we can have the algorithm, we can have the software to do real-time monitoring of all these devices, then can tell consumers, okay, which device we're seeing have vulnerabilities right now at this moment, can give this kind of information to consumers in real time.
For the home, is the key basically to secure the home server, since that's what every connected device goes through?
That can certainly be a very good place to do security without having to touch each single end device. So we can all see can be a daunting task if we have to download the software, download an agent onto each IoT device you're using in your home. And for some of them it's not something even possible. So we certainly see at the gateway, at your home router is a great place, because every single packet goes through the network. That's the place we can see all the traffic. We can know exactly what's going on in your whole network in your home. So any device has any abnormal behavior then can be easily catched.
So does the industry sort of understand that as a whole?
I think we are seeing great momentum. Again, partially thanks to the increasing amount of hacking incidents. And we're seeing more executives, more board members, more organizations are putting in more resources and attention and thoughts and talent into this area to work together. But overall, I think it's need to be a collaborative effort to move this forward, whether it is the device vendor, whether it is in healthcare's hospital in terms of consuming these devices, and whether it is security vendors, or whether it is policymakers. I think we need to come together to identify the challenges, the issues, and work together to come up with the solution, the policies, the best practices recommend to put into place to better secure all these connected devices.
We're moving to a world of 10, 20, 30, depending on who you believe, billion devices worldwide. How do you get your arms around that?
That's an excellent question. That's another challenge we see IoT devices are bringing into the picture. We think we already have enough PCs and cell phones, but as the prediction goes by 2020 or in 5 years, we are going to have, tens of billions of devices, which are going to be several times more than the total amount of PCs and cell phones combined we have today. So scalability is a huge issue in terms of how to identify these devices, how to manage these devices, how to secure these devices. And also at the same time, because of these devices, it brings us lots of convenience and efficiency. It also brings in lots of challenges. But on the other side, because of these connected devices, we're actually start getting huge amount of data that we either couldn't get before or we couldn't get in such real time. So how to manage, collect all these data, how to manage these data, how to leverage all these data to give us more insights to make better decisions. So we do see scalability is a huge challenge for IoT, given so many number of devices, not only so many number of devices, but also so many different kinds of devices. And your digital door lock is very different from your Nest thermostat is very different from an MRI machine. So how do we address each individual device behavior, its needs, its functionality? It's a huge challenge. Again, that's where we see relying on human effort, manual configuration and manual effort is not going to work. That's where we see artificial intelligence, machine learning really comes handy to address these issues. Because one good thing about these IoT devices is they only do a fixed set of functionalities. So it's relatively easy for machine learning to pick up their normal behavior, to build up a mathematical model, to do the real-time monitoring of their normal behaviors. That's where machine learning can help us a lot. And also, that's the place, once it learns, say, for example, particular X-ray machine's behavior, it's relatively easier for machine learning to scale it up to tens of millions of other X-ray machines than our human being can do. So that's where we see all these artificial intelligence algorithms and methodologies can help us a lot to address the scalability issue that we're seeing in IoT.
So what do you see as the impact of higher speeds, 5G, edge computing, all that sort of thing, in terms of the IoT device picture of the world?
We do see, years ago we started talking about cloud so much, and now there are lots of discussions about edge computing, and also some people call it fog computing. And we do see, given this huge amount of IoT devices being deployed in real field, it's almost impossible for you to send every single package of information up to the cloud. We do see the importance of pushing intelligence to the edge. We can do some preliminary processing on the edge, at the edge router, at the edge switches, before we send aggregated information or processed information to cloud for further processing. So we do see moving forward this whole edge computing. We think it's going to have lots of opportunities to address many challenges and issues.
So where will security reside in that environment, at both places?
Yes, we do think actually, we have the end device, we have the edge, and we have the cloud. And we think it takes, it's hard to have one solution at one single place to solve all the security issues. So we do think that having a combination suite of solutions, we try to protect the end devices as much as possible, and we try to do as much as possible at the edge. We also try to leverage the cloud capability to collect huge amount of data so that, if I see vulnerability in this X-ray machine, in this hospital, I can warn other X-ray machines at other hospitals the kind of vulnerability we're seeing. So we think at different layers, at different stages, we all need security mechanism to be in place.
So you live in the world of security and fixing it. What bothers you about it these days?
I think what bothers me the most is what we don't know, what we don't know. Because when we talk to, again, we work a lot with healthcare systems, and when we go to talk to executives in large hospital systems, when you ask them how many connected medical devices you have, what kind they are, most hospitals don't have any good answers. So because we don't even know what IoT devices are getting connected onto my network at any given time. How do you manage them? How do you secure them? We don't even know what kind of vulnerabilities they're exposing. So we think the first important step is to have the visibility, really get to know your network, have a real-time knowledge and information about at any given second what devices are on your network and what kind of vulnerabilities they have. And then we can do lots of things on top of that. So I think having the visibility, knowing what you have, what are the good devices, what are the bad devices, would be a very key first step.
So when you go into a big hospital and say, how many devices do you have connected to the network, do they get pale when they can't answer that question?
They said we've been running into this issue for a long while. We've been looking for a tool, but we don't. And the tool we're using right now is called Excel. And of course, then we get a spreadsheet from IT department. We get a spreadsheet from biomed team who's in charge of medical devices. And of course, these two spreadsheets don't really talk to each other, and they're obsoleted. And for some, it's a good thing that hospitals realize they have this issue. For one particular hospital we talked to, they plan to hire 200 people to walk on the floor to manually write down all the inventory they have. And how scalable will that be?
Whoa, isn't there a technological way to do that?
I think that's what everybody is trying now, to bring in more automatic, intelligent tools to help, you know, relieve the burden on human beings.
So lastly, what's the good news? What's the promise of IoT security?
Well, the promise is, well, first talk about IoT. Some people are saying, oh, great, we have all these IoT devices, but if they're bringing us lots of security challenge, the most secure way is to disconnect them, shut them down. The good news is I think people nowadays are really enjoying the benefits of all these connected devices bringing to us. Because these devices are connected, you can instantly get your test results, instantly get your x-ray images, and instantly get the diagnosis from the doctors. So we're all enjoying, just like smartphone. It has its own issues, but because of all the convenience it's bringing to us, there's no way we're going back. So now the question is how we can work together to address these potential IoT security issues. The good news is I think all parties, we see more and more organizations are paying really good attention onto this issue. And not only they are talking about these issues, but they are actually taking actions. They're putting more resources, putting more budget. We see in many hospitals, they're doubling, tripling, quadrupling their security investment, and they're hiring more experts to address these issues. So we do see a big hope there.
Thank you. Thank you, May Wang, and thank you all for listening to the Voices of the Internet of Things.
Thank you so much, Chuck.